The the Dawning is back, and with it some new Dawning weapons. Some of these are older Dawning weapons with some new perks and a new coat of paint. One of these is truly new, but let's go through them and see if there's anything worth the hassle of baking all those cookies. With these Dawning weapons comes their own unique origin trait, Dawning Surprise. This origin trait drops a little present every handful of kills with a weapon. It's oddly inconsistent though. From what I saw while playing around with it, you need about 8 kills to get a present to drop. It also looks like it needs to be a single weapon. Getting a couple of takedowns with one Dawning weapon, then a few more kills with another Dawning weapon didn't seem to work all that well. So it needs to be one weapon without stowing it. Once that present drops, you're in for a treat, as it'll give you 10% of each of your neutral abilities, a bit of health, and kicks off your health regen. Unfortunately, because the kill requirement is so high, and these weapons are more fun than meta, it leaves you with only an occasional present. It's a really fun origin trait, and in the right conditions it can be really strong, but sadly most of the time you'll get more use out of whatever the other origin trait each weapon has. Try it for yourself and see if you like it though. I suspect someone will really enjoy this origin trait. Now, onto the weapons. Stay Frosty is a stasis lightweight pulse, and because of this, it's not fantastic. While pulses have received a few damage buffs this year, they still really only deal damage to red bars, even in medium level content. So be aware while using this that you may find it feels a bit weak. But let's not write this thing off just yet. There are some solid perks on this thing. Standard stasis stuff, Rhyme Stealer Headstone will serve you well, along with things like Frenzy and Desperado. This thing is loaded with PvP perks, so getting a decent one may be kind of annoying to get. I myself landed on a Killing Wind Headstone roll for my Hunter, as Killing Wind gives 50 mobility, giving a better dodge cooldown on the Hunter. In PvP, which for the first time I did actually play with this weapon, it was a lightweight pulse. It's not the battler, so naturally I don't like it nearly as much. We're getting some buffs to lightweights in Act 3, but unless you care about a 0.15 headshot damage increase, it's not really worth hanging on to for PvP. So really, Rhyme Stealer Headstone if you need one of those, otherwise if you're looking for a PvP lightweight pulse, there's quite a few to choose from. I don't think many people will find value with this weapon, but there is some value for those who look for it. Moving on to our energy weapons, first up let's take a look at Alto Wing. I think I'm saying that right. This art glaive has some pretty solid perks all around. If you're looking for a solid glaive, there's things like Beacon Rounds, Grave Robber, and Replenishing Aegis in the first column, alongside Close to Melee in the second column. If you're looking for something a bit more fun and unique, there's things like Eddy Current and Strategist in the first column, alongside Volt Shot in the second. I wasn't able to score myself a Volt Shot roll, but I was able to try out the base glaive performance with a Beacon Round Close to Melee roll. It's solid, and if you're a glaive fan, you'll like this one. If you've not used a glaive much, this is a pretty good one to try. Glaives are really good, trust me. Glaciochasm is a void fusion rifle, and again, you're looking at a lot of PvP perks. Thankfully, there are some pretty good perks here, and some might actually have you hunting one of these suckers down. In the first column, you're really only looking at magazine-related perks: Subsistence, Overflow, Slide Shot, and Envious Assassin. In the second column, it has some standard fusion rifle perks like Reservoir Burst and Controlled Bust. Wait, Burst, that's a typo in the script. You know what, I'm gonna leave it in. Controlled Bust. That's a power I'd like. You know what, let's move away from that joke. But also present on this fusion rifle is Withering Gaze, where holding your aim for a moment will cause your next shot to weaken on hit. This is a really good perk, like really good. Less so this season as we have weakening grenade launchers, but even then, this is a really good perk. It's effectively going to give you and your whole team a 15% damage boost to a target, which is a very strong effect to have for effectively free. Then you consider all the effects that you can get with Weaken on a Void subclass, and you've got yourself a very strong perk and a very fun perk. Not the best weapon with this perk, but a solid weapon overall nonetheless. Now for our heavy weapons. There are 3 in total. Let's start with an all-time classic, Avalanche. Avalanche has been a long time go-to machine gun for me. An auto-loading incandescent roll can see large numbers of enemies deleted in seconds, and it's a really good roll for those looking for something reliable and sturdy. But of course, that's not the only perk set. In the first column, there's auto-loading, subsistence, rewind rounds, and dragonfly. In the second, you've got incandescent, cascade point, target lock, and vorpal. If you're looking for the most unique roll, you may have spotted the Dragonfly Incandescent combo. I don't have this one myself, but it sounds incredibly fun. The weapon itself deals a good amount of damage, so foregoing a damage perk for more ad clear and explosions is a totally viable strategy. Of course, you could go for a high damage roll with things like target lock and rewind rounds. There are better machine guns with rolls like that, namely retrofit, but this would be another pretty good option for that type of roll. The stasis sword Zephyr was a unique weapon for a while, with it being the only sword with cold steel. It's not anymore. We've got a few swords with cold steel now, but this will, to me, always be the OG. Standard sword perks all around, with some notable perks being Rhyme Stealer and Valiant Charge in the first column, with cold steel, surrounded, and chain reaction in the second. I use swords a ton, but mostly for the movement with Eager Edge. This sword doesn't have Eager Edge, so I'll keep using my Halo sword for now. I did try Cold Steel since it had been a while since I last used it, and frankly, it's a lot of fun, especially if you're building into stasis with slows and freezes. Because it slows and freezes, it also deals with overloads and unstoppables, which holds a lot of value by itself. Last, but certainly not least, we have the newest addition to the Dawning Weapon roster, a void 3-round burst linear fusion rifle named Mistral Lift. Mistral Lift. Mistral Lift is my favorite of the Dawning set. There's great perks all over on this thing. Clown Cartridge is always a lot of fun, then you've got Envious Assassin and Reconstruction, those are always great magazine perks. But when it comes to the first column, come on, there's really only one that stands out. Withering Gaze. A damage perk in the first column is always a sign of a great weapon, and it's no different here. You've got a ton to pair it with too. Bait and switch, firing line, frenzy, vorpal, precision instrument, even high ground could be a pretty reliable option on this thing. Mistral Lift is actually really good. I wanted to actually use the weapons before I gave any sort of opinion on them, and this thing quickly became a part of my loadout. The other weapons, I tried them, I liked some, like the fusion rifle and the glaive, but I didn't love any of them until Mistral Lift. I have a Withering Gaze precision instrument roll, and I love this thing. It's just so simple. Hold the sights for a second, then shoot. 15% extra damage from the weaken, then up to 25 from precision instrument. Because it's a 3-round burst, you also stack up precision instrument way quicker. A really great weapon here. If you don't get any of the others, I recommend you at least try this one. I realized as I'm editing this video that I completely skipped over Cold Front. Completely forgot it existed. This thing notoriously kind of sucks, mostly because of its reload speed, but it does have Frenzy, which is what I'll be hunting down this next week in the Dawning. So anything with Frenzy, or Stats for All if you prefer that. Otherwise, this thing is absolute garbage. So that's the Dawning, or the Yawning, if you will. It's not a great event, but there are some weapons that might be worth a shot if you're feeling like playing some Destiny. Some weapons are good enough, but still leave a lot to be desired, like Stay Frosty. Others are pretty fun to play with and are actually quite strong, like Mistral Lift. Either way, if you're looking for something to do in Destiny, they're all at least worth a figurative and literal shot. If you have any personal favorite rolls from the suite of Dawning weapons, let me know down in the comments. Until next time.